Thank you for tuning into the podcast. As always, I'm so grateful for your interest and your support. In this episode, I'd like to explore the Jesuit tradition of gentleness. Gentleness has been a defining trait of Jesuit education since the first school was founded in the 16th century. I'd like to explore how Jesuit educators, students, and all of us can be more intentional about bringing a spirit of gentleness to our teaching, learning, and living. The best description of gentleness I've heard comes from Father Henry Nouwen, a priest, teacher, and spiritual writer. He said, "Gentle is the one who does not break the crushed reed or snuff the faltering wick," quoting Matthew chapter 12. Gentle is the one who is attentive to the strengths and weaknesses of others and enjoys being together more than accomplishing something. A gentle person treads lightly, listens carefully, looks tenderly, and touches with reverence. A gentle person knows that true growth requires nurture, not force. Gentleness is a gospel value, and we can look to Jesus as a role model of authentic gentleness. We see this in the way he taught. For example, it's in his parables. Father Ronald Rolheiser notes that the parables are vague and thus open to interpretation. Rolheiser says, "Deliberate vagueness is a studied gentleness, a deep compassion that recognizes that people's lives are complex and that truth is not a sledgehammer." From the earliest days of Jesuit education, gentleness, it has been noted, was a guiding light for the way Jesuit schools were to be run. Professor Cristiano Casalini, a scholar of Jesuit educational history, says, "Where school life was concerned, gentleness was widely considered to be the lodestar for governing, correcting, punishing, or even expelling students. It led superiors, teachers, and prefects, and for my students at Fordham Prep who are listening, the prefect refers to the person who had Mr. Pettis's job, to watch over both the behavior of students and the humanly sustainable balance of daily life. Rectors and prefects of studies were expected to take care to have students have a healthy alternation of study and rest, work and leisure." From the beginning of my teaching career, I have tried, and I acknowledge that I have been far from perfect in this, to bring a spirit of gentleness to my classroom and interactions with students. Here's what that looks like for me. First, I make it a point not to use sarcasm in my classroom. I grew up in an era and a culture where sarcasm was one of the primary ways people, especially men, related to each other, and this was a part of how classrooms were run. I remember how belittling it could feel, whether or not I was on the receiving end of the sarcasm, and I vowed that I would not use that as a way of relating to my students. Second, when I need to correct a student for misbehavior, I always make it a point to say, "This is nothing personal, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm sure you understand that there has to be accountability. When you complete this disciplinary assignment, it will be water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned, and we can move forward." Third, I recognize the importance of creating spaces for rest, for having genuine Sabbath time. For example, when the weather is sunny and pleasant, and we have nothing special scheduled for our weekly mentor group meeting at Fordham Prep, I will take my students outside to play. I also do not give homework assignments over break periods. Now, I realize that not all subjects lend themselves to this, and if I taught an AP class, I might have to do things differently. But I want to do as much as I possibly can to contribute to breaks from school being periods of rest. Related to Sabbath time, I begin each class with meditation. I want to give students the opportunity to simply be still and rest. Rest from the intensity of talking, of looking at screens, of receiving new information, of demands and expectations. I've learned that the early Jesuits highlighted the importance of breaks from study. Father Benet Pereira, a teacher of theology at the Jesuits' Roman College, writing in 1564, observed, "Health is badly affected by mental concentration that lasts a long time at a certain level of intensity. This is why, at least in my opinion, no one will do more than 3 hours of study without a break." He went on, adding, "An individual that has already made some progress in studies should never either undertake academic work while his body is tired and unwilling, or strain in such work to the point of bodily exhaustion." Finally, I'd like to offer some ideas about how a teacher might mentor students in nurturing gentleness in their learning and their lives. First, we can role model and teach students how to pray. That is, how to simply show up and rest in God. Gentleness is an aspect of a loving heart, and the source of love is God. When we simply sit in the presence of this love and we allow it in, it will have a transformative effect. Second, we teach compassion, including compassion first and foremost for ourselves. If we desire to be compassionate toward others, we must first learn to channel compassion for ourselves. True compassion is a grace that comes from God. It does not originate with us. The compassionate person recognizes that suffering, failure, struggle, and limitations are part of the human condition. We need the help of God and others as we navigate these realities. We cannot handle all this alone. The compassionate one knows that we are neither independent nor dependent, but mutually interdependent. A part of being compassionate on ourselves is self-care. The early Jesuits, for example, focused on the importance of proper diet and sufficient sleep. Pereira said, "Although sleep needs to be of varying lengths according to different temperaments and physical constitutions, the ancients nevertheless took 7 hours as an amount that is proper and close to what is required." We should attend to this not less than diet, since the mind uses the faculties of perception as a help and support for understanding. And in sleep, these faculties are renewed, refreshed, and made more active and alert to serve the mind. Third, we role model and teach what it is to embrace a spirituality of imperfection. We name the truth that I am human, I am a creature with limitations. I cannot do everything perfectly, and a part of my spiritual journey is to let go of the illusion that I can be the perfect student, perfect athlete, perfect child. Finally, we cultivate gentleness in our words and actions. For example, we become more intentional about our speech. That is, how can I make my choice of words less aggressive and less violent? How might I be more attentive and caring toward the vulnerable? We might be especially patient with our classmate who is a little awkward and still learning how to be social with others. And we do our best to handle hard times without becoming undone, with a sense of calm, and not addicted to the hot emotions of the moment. Jesuit education has, from its beginnings, been focused on the human person becoming their authentic, true self, and empowered to bring one's gift to the world. Gentleness is deeply human, deeply Christ-like, deeply needed in our world today. Jesuit educators and our students are well equipped by our tradition to role model what it means to nurture the sacred trait of gentleness. And with that, let's go into a few moments of quiet meditation.